Thank you. And great to see you, Piroz, and a lot of other people who one would look forward to seeing. But unfortunately, due to the lockdown, at least we need to be thankful that we're seeing them on screens, if not physically. Coming to Punjab and agriculture in particular, Punjab has had a glorious past being the granary to the nation. All our growing up years, we've heard stories of how the Punjab farmer has fed the country. And that is evident in just the crop intensity in Punjab, the cropping intensity, which is about 190%, which as yet. But why is it becoming a concern today? It's becoming a concern today. I don't think it's becoming a concern for the farmer today. It is actually a concern for the government. It is a concern for the environment. And we need to find a solution because from a holistic perspective, we are producing more in Punjab than what is needed. And in the process, causing a burden on the environment, which is essentially the water in that area, as well as the resources, the finances of the government. So this change that is being sought is actually not necessarily a change which is sought by the farmer. For him, a status quo is good in the current circumstances, particularly when we have a situation where commodity prices across the globe have been going down, the supplies have been increasing, productivity has increased. So why would the farmer want to move out of a comfortable situation where he's getting a margin over his cost of production, and there is a assured purchase from the government? Who would want to disturb the status quo? And while this conversation around has been on for many years, but I don't think anyone has had the courage to, if I may use the word, bell the canopy and has a political to bringing about a change. But a change has to be brought because both the way the government is procuring and the costs that are being incurred, we keep hearing about the sort of deaths of FCI and the losses at FCI, as well as the depletion of the water in Punjab, water table in Punjab, and neither of that is sustainable. So measures will have to be taken both at the central and the state government level, because this problem or this situation cannot be altered simply by the state government or the central government alone. It is certainly not in the interest of the farmer today to alter it, because he's obviously a beneficiary, and given the state of agriculture and the state of farmers in the country, why would we want to disrupt one of the places where the farmer is actually better off relative to his peers in most other parts of the country? So what needs to be done then? So if there is a need to get the farmer to diversify, it is okay to say, we've all talked about, and I've been personally a votary of saying that we should get the farmer to switch to maize. But if you look at what would have, if you look at just this year, what would have happened to the farmer if he had moved from paddy to maize? He would have been, pretty much in distress. And so therefore, why should he do that? Purely because, maize processing companies want maize, or government wants to pay less subsidy, or the water table needs to be maintained. That's not his problem. For a poor 2-hectare farmer, this is not his biggest concern. And I think we need to keep these realities in mind as we search for solutions. So what will make the solutions happen? We have to look at a future where we need to correct these, what I would say, discrepancies, or the situation that we want to avoid in the future. My own view is that this is not going to be something that will happen. The new laws, ordinances will play a role in making that happen. Because one of the reasons why the private sector, even when they needed the produce from, I'm talking about just staying with paddy and with wheat, while paddy and basmati rice did have a market, but the cost of doing business was very high in Punjab because of the taxes and the levies and the commissions. And the new law may help bring down that cost of doing business, therefore making the produce more competitive, whether it is for basmati, whether it is for processing companies buying wheat, or in that first step, which say that, okay, procurement from Punjab for the private sector may not remain as expensive as it was in the past. But before that happens, there will be a need to build that. The private sector will build it. The opportunity has to be big enough for people to be making. Secondly, we have to obviously support the farmer in making that and that support is going to come when his assured income, which he's getting foreign choices, is not affected. We heard about the Bhavantar scheme, and that may be a solution where the farmer's income is protected while he is encouraged to switch a crop for which there are buyers. And so we have to set up that system. Certain states have tried the Bhavantar. There have been success stories, and there have been huge sort of challenges to implementing that scheme. And so the implementation of it becomes very important and critical to its success. The third is that the transition has to be by creating an infrastructure which probably starts with dealing with what Punjab is producing today and gradually leveraging the same infrastructure to support the other crops. So I'll give you an example. I mean, NCML is deeply entrenched in the infrastructure building in Punjab. We have warehouses in many locations, our own warehouses, leased warehouses, and we're now in the process of building 3 silo locations, which are actually going to be used by FCI, where FCI will be procuring the grain from in Punjab and storing it in these silos in bulk. And these are obviously world-class storage systems and have the linkage to railway sidings, which would move these cargoes across the country wherever they have to be delivered for the public distribution system. But that investment, while it is made for the government movement of goods and storage of goods, does open up opportunities in those areas for leveraging the railway sidings, for leveraging those spaces that have been created as mandis or will become private procurement centers for other crops to come in. And if we are able to get if they're able to be minus the taxes that typically crops in Punjab have attracted and have access to good transportation and movement facilities, good storage locations and quality of storage being good, that will be a transition. That will be a phase where we will transition from continuing to do what we are doing for the government to enabling the private sector by reducing the cost of doing business in Punjab, by reducing the cost of moving goods or the cost of supply chain management in Punjab or from Punjab. And that will be the gradual change and similar. So I just talked about what we are doing with, but I'm sure there are other people who are setting up food processing units, who are setting up food parks. But I think it will be essentially better to be starting off from what is being produced in Punjab today to then showing a way to the farmer to be producing what we want him to produce and what is good for the country, good for the government. So I think this is going to be a long haul. It requires a commitment from both the center and the state government. While we the farmer will be the last person to change because as I said earlier, his interests are most important for him, and it is our responsibility as government and industry to make him see a better future than his present today. So it will be a collective effort. It will be a patient effort from the state government to do that. And I wish to thank the Punjab CEO Rajat, who's here, opportunity to deal with in West Punjab from my Kargil days, where we set up a large agenda. And it has always been a fantastic experience working with the government. That kind of investment support, where Punjab actually has become an example of supporting and handholding industries, will go a long way in ensuring that investors are encouraged to come to the state as and when the agriculture conditions or situation improves or is showing signs of improvement. So great being on this panel, and certainly looking forward to Punjab growing beyond the cereals and continuing to be not just the granary to the country, but being the food basket to the country. Thank you.